Hey guys, it's your favorite sisters with the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast. On the show, you'll hear caregivers confessing the good, the bad, and the completely unexpected. You're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, leave with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Now, let's jump right in to today's guest confession.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, Natalie.
How are you doing?
I'm great. You know what?
What?
We have been on a recording sprint. I feel like I've been talking, like my mouth might be tired. That never has happened before.
I actually don't even know what to say to that.
I might be a little tired, that's all. I'm not
No.
gonna
You know what, though? We have been recording. We've had some of the most amazing stories. Yeah. And it seems that appropriate that we would wrap up our 6-episode recording spree with the amazing Stacy Ryan.
You gave away part of my story.
Doesn't even matter. Stacy is so amazing. And I have the privilege, I get to talk to all the guests beforehand and become best friends with them.
I know.
And so, and Stacy and I also have a connection though, too. Yeah. Actually more like Stacy and my husband. People were like, what? And I'm like, yes. And so, but Stacy's been a caregiver, and I would love for you to share more about Stacy so we can bring her in, because people are like, we don't want to hear you, lady.
Yeah, stop chatting, girls. All right.
Simmer down.
So we are incredibly excited, Stacy, to have you here with us, Stacy Ryan. She really explained who she was best. She gave me a timeline. In her bio, she started, I did the Ironman at 36.
Love that.
Survived cancer at 45.
Check.
And became a widow at 52. She was like, here's my summary. Let's break it down. It's caregiving for her husband that brings her to us today. Yeah. And I think for me, the question that I want to hear is, what do you do when all treatment options are gone? And how do you live those days with the one that you love? Because I think Stacy's got a lot of insight for us. And what do you do with the rest of your life? Because Stacy has done a lot. She is, yeah, she's turned it around. Thank you, Stacy, for joining us.
And I'll say this. I mean, they're a love story.
They are.
Stacy and her husband were and always will be a love story for me. And even though no matter what life takes you after in your next chapter, or whatever you want to call that next stage, chapter, whatever we call it proverbially, it's a love story. And I was so privileged to getting to hear about their story and how they spent their time together. So Stacy, thank you for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Hi. You're welcome. And you know what you call it, Natalie? A whole new life.
Oh, I like a whole new life.
Which is what the name of my podcast is, and my book series, and what I'm living right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
You know what? You're exactly right. It is a whole new life. Because people always say, you know, well, what's that? Is it a phase? Is it a stage? Because people always want to define it. And the reality is, you're allowed to have a whole new life again. And you can do that.
I lived an amazing life with 30 years, which is a big chunk of time with my husband. And I'm still young, so I feel like I have a whole new life to live. I had to discover that through, process of grieving and whatnot, but it's happening.
Oh, absolutely. That is absolutely true. Well, we're going to kick off, and I want to give some context. Want to make sure, or actually for our listeners, let's talk about your background, where you're from, like where you grew up, all the good stuff. Kind of bring us up, how you met Mike, and let's talk about life. Let's give our audience kind of the background.
The backstory.
I love the backstory.
Oh dear.
That is what happened.
Make it exciting. Oh my gosh.
You were born.
Well, once upon a time in 1968. No, so I was born and raised. You guys are like from the South, and I do not talk like that. So there's this distinct accent difference. I'm from Wisconsin, born and raised here. Graduated high school in '86, and kind of wandered the world. Like, what should I do with my life? And ended up working just random jobs, where I met my husband, John, in 1990 through a setup kind of thing. That's what you did back then, right? Like, hey, come to happy hour. And there he was. So that was December 7th, 1990. And quite literally, because I was still at this point in my life trying to discover what I want to do when I grow up, which P.S. I still haven't figured that out or still playing around.
Respect.
I was contemplating moving to Colorado. I had family there, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's a good idea where I should go. And then I met him, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I can just stay here. And he's like, don't hold me back. Don't let me hold you back if there's some place that you want to be. I'm like, nope, I'm quite happy here. Yeah. So obviously stayed. We got married in 1993. And then we worked hard in our careers. He worked for the same employer for over 30 years and worked his way up through that employer in little Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And then I worked my way up through an accounting and human resources career as well. We chose not to have kids. Someone has to be the cool aunt and uncle.
Preach.
And this is huge, right?
Look at JJ and I are both like, it is us. It is us.
Our sister Emily was responsible for having the kids.
Yeah, Emily
Natalie
was
and I
responsible
passed.
for all the childbearing. And I'm like, I did not want to wreck that area. So totally fine. Let Emily have it.
Yep, everybody has a strength in the family and the friendship group, so boom.
Yep.
So I have over 12 nieces and nephews. I have great nephews now, which I feel like when I had great aunts, when I was little, they were in their 80s.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of this weird thing. But anyway, so those are the people we spoiled their whole life, and we were actively involved in their life, traveled, and just, we just did the thing, it was him and I, and it was easy, it was fun, it was relaxing, it was adventurous. I can probably count on one hand how many times we fought, and if we did, it was over dumb things, right? So we're just living our best life. Through my own personal career, I decided to, in my late 30s, early 40s, to leave the corporate world. I'm like, you know what? And it's very similar to, I understand your story as well. I just kind of got sick of that whole thing that comes with the corporate world, right? And I loved what I did, but I didn't like all the other stuff that was behind the scenes. And I had an amazing husband. At that time, I was doing Ironman and crazy things like that. So I was very heavily involved in fitness. I had a passion personally to help others in that world. And one day I'm like, he's like, you're coming home crying every night. It's just not worth it. Why don't you just leave? I'm like, just leave?
Like,
okay. What do I do? He's like, you'll figure it out.
God.
So I did. And I was teaching classes at a local YMCA at the time, and I walked in. I'm like, hey, I got a lot of free time, so if you have any opportunities, well, next thing you know, I went from corporate flying to meetings and wearing business suits and making $25 million healthcare decisions to wearing sweatpants, making $9 an hour, and loving every second of it. Like
that is the American dream.
So I will laugh and say that was my life. I went from corporate banking to selling Nemo and Dory for a living. So I'm going to tell you that best life change. I love that, Stacy.
Right? And, I'm sure like you had recruiters who would reach out to be like, hey. And I would talk to my husband, and I'm like, should I go back? He's like, look, I have not seen you this happy in a long time. Why? We're fine. Yeah. So within 10 months of that, the fitness director position became open, and went for it, and I got that. So then I got to live this sort of wow dream that I didn't even know I had a dream of as far as I am now having a career in something I'm super passionate about, and I get to be in charge. I get to make an impact, a difference. I get to, help bring exciting things in this world to the community. So I was, again, living my best life, doing our thing. And then, I don't know if it's really ironic, but it's kind of ironic, I guess, in a weird way. In 2013, well, it was probably about a year and a half to 2 years before that, one of the programs that I helped bring into the YMCA it's called Live Strong at the YMCA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cancer survivor program. It's an exercise cancer survivor program. And it's a national YMCA program. So I was very fortunate. I'm like, yes, I want to be part of this team to bring this here. And I not only did bring it to the Y here, but I was a coach. I was a mentor. I really got hands-on involved. I worked with the local hospitals, with the oncology team, and just, and at the time of my life, I never even had anybody. I mean, my grandma passed away, my grandparents passed away from cancer, but that was, when you're younger, that's just, I don't know that.
It feels surreal. It doesn't feel real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't know, something was just passionately driving me to make this program the best that it could be. And I had met well over 200 cancer survivors throughout this time frame. And then all of a sudden, one day in October of 2013, my husband and I, and then my brother and sister-in-law came home from a Green Bay Packers football game, living our best life, enjoying the fall
They're
weather.
cheeseheads.
Yeah.
I just want you to know you're cheeseheads. I love that.
Yeah, I don't wear that cheesehead to the Packers game per se, but others do. But yeah, my sister-in-law had never gone to a game, so we did all the things, the tailgating and everything that comes with it. So that night we came home and they were staying at our house. They live out of town. And my brother looks at me and he's like, "Why do you have a lump on your neck?" I mean, we're just watching TV in our sweatpants. And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about right now." So I went into the bathroom and there was a golf ball sized goiter, as I call it, on my neck. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. And I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't have anything that triggered that. Um, but I'm like, that's weird. And so overnight, I got really sick. I got flu-like symptoms. And when we woke up the next day, I felt bad because we couldn't go out for breakfast. I'm like, "Sorry guys, I don't feel good." And my husband's like, "You have a lump on your neck and you don't feel good. We're going to the doctor."
Yeah.
And I was always and still am, into preventive care. So I'm like, okay, yep, something's weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, within that time frame, they said, "Oh, Stacy, sometimes lymph nodes pop up and create flu-like symptoms or vice versa. Here's some steroids. If it doesn't go down in the next couple of days, call us." So there was no indication of anything to be alarmed of. So I was home from work. Wednesday, so that was a Monday. Wednesday was still exactly the same size, still felt the same. So I called. They got me into a ear, nose, and throat doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He said the same thing. "Stacy, it looks like, it could be just the lymph node. Here's to continue the steroids. However, if it doesn't go down in size by Friday, I will surgically remove this." So he was on it. They weren't wasting any time. I had the best team. So Friday came, same place, same size, same symptoms. So I called. He's like, "Come on in." So he canceled his hunting trip weekend. I went in for my first surgery ever in my life, and they removed the lymph node. That weekend was our 20th wedding anniversary. And so I looked at the doctor and I'm like, "Can I at least have a glass of wine with my husband tomorrow to celebrate?" As I sit here with this ugly gauze on my neck that I just had surgery, he's like, "Of course, Stacey." So the weekend went through. We celebrated our 20th anniversary in sweatpants and, a gauze of
Gauze.
gauze on my neck. And again, I started to feel better, but again, nothing alarming was there. I went back to work on Tuesday. I'm in my office, and these are moments in time of your life that you will never forget. And when you talk about them, it triggers emotions. So it's about 2 o'clock. I'm in my office catching up with have a meeting someone in my office, and I'm catching up because I've now been gone for a week unexpectedly. So I just kind of catching up with everybody. And my phone rings on my office phone. So I ignore it because I'm in a meeting. 2 seconds later, my cell phone rings, same phone number. I'm like, hang on a second. So I'm like, "Hey, this is Stacy." And it was my doctor who removed the lymph node on that Friday. And because he knew I was, a health and fitness director, he knew I loved teaching cycling class. And he's like, "Stacy, just take a week off to recover. Don't exercise." I'm like, aye, Captain, I promise. So I quite literally, because he was this amazing human, thought he was just calling to see how I was doing and ensuring that I wasn't exercising. And he's like, hey, Stace, and he did, how are you? I'm back to work, and don't worry, I'm not exercising. And he's like, I don't want to say this over the phone, but I'm wondering if you and John can come in to the office today. We found cancer cells. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, I don't want to talk to you about it over the phone. I want to talk to you about it in person. I'm like, yep. So I hung up the phone, and I have this beautiful girl who is actually a friend of mine, sitting in my office, and I have the tears and I can't even speak. And I'm like, they found cancer. And she comes and gives me a hug. I'm like, I have to call John. So I called my husband, and I, again, couldn't barely get the words out. And all I remember saying, Dr. Clemens just called and he said, I have cancer cells. He's like, I'm on the way. My husband works 40 minutes from where I am. He was there, I swear to God, in 30. And he comes running into my office. He held me tight. He's like, we got this. We'll do this together. So we had like 20 minutes to spare. So we went to our house, and I left my car at the Y, and he just sat there and he just held me. And I've seen my husband cry before that one other time when a good friend of his passed away. My husband was the strong one, and I could hear him sniffling as I'm laying on his shoulder. And I sat up. I'm like, why are you crying? Fair well knowing why he is. But he's like, I don't want anything to happen to you. We had an amazing marriage up to that point already, and something just happened that elevated that to a whole nother level. So we left, and the doctor told us we had to find out where your cancer is. That's all we know, is that you have it. When do you want a PET scan? I'm like right this second. So anyway, it was scheduled for 48 hours later, and then found out I had left tonsil cancer. I had a half-inch tumor on my tonsil. They removed it, went through that process of healing, and then started treatment. So that was like out of the blue. My husband took me to radiation every day. He left work early and then would work from home for the rest of the day. And then after I recovered, which was in the spring of the following year, it was horrendous. Like, there were moments where I wanted to give up, and it was hard, but he was there caring for me and helping me get through those moments of time. And when it was all done and I was starting to recover, he's like, you know what? I'm taking you to Mexico. Let's get away for a while. Let's just, and this is why this is such an amazing thing that I'm sharing that part is my husband, we went to Mexico numerous times, but he's like, he wasn't a sun guy. He wasn't sit on the beach guy, but he knew I was. And so that's where he took me. And we celebrated life. We had a party that summer, like, wow, that was hard. So that was that. And then I retired from the Y.
Well, and actually you said, and then I retired from the Y, and I'm going to pause us there because we're going to take a break. Because that is, my friends, the connection between Jason and Stacy, because they're head and neck cancer survivors. And so when I first met Stacy, I was like, oh, my heart. And so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back.
All right, everybody, we are back here with Stacy Ryan, and I feel like she has conquered head and neck cancer. We're at that point. She gets through.
I'm going to say this, and this is a clean thing, but she kicked cancer's ass.
Go for it.
I'm going to tell you that. This is a clean podcast, but I am going to say that because you kicked its butt, and she is on the other side of it. And her wonderful husband took her to Mexico to celebrate. We went to Disney. I can't even say that.
Yeah.
So Stacy, you totally got the win on the trip. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
We went with our friends. So
yeah. So you did that. And I hear you say John sounds like a fantastic caregiver. You retire from the Y, and you're very active, and you guys have years. You've got,
you
6,
keep moving.
7 years. You keep moving through life. tell me what happens. Tell me what happens with you and John? What happens in 2020?
So, yep, life was clicking along. I got to retire early. And then at the end of 2019, similar to me, is we were watching the Packer game at home, and my husband was like, you know what? I don't feel good, which is something that he, if ever, said. And so we kind of just laid around and lounged around that Sunday. The Packers game was on that evening. And before the Packer game, he's like, I'm going to take a shower and maybe that'll just snap out. I'm feeling weak, tired. This will help snap that. So he did. And he's in the shower and I'm around the corner getting snacks ready for the Packer game. And again, living our best life, mine and, thing. And all of a sudden I hear him calling my name in sort of a panic voice. And by the time I came around the corner, he was passed out.
Oh my God.
So he came to, I'm ready to dial 911 and he's coming to, he's like, what happened? Well, he was dizzy and he feels like he just got too hot of a shower. So that evening, we just laid low. I wanted to take him to the hospital, but he said, no, let's just wait. So we woke up in the morning and very similar. I'm like, something's wrong. And he admittedly said, something's wrong. So we went to the doctor. And at the time, they ran some tests and they found out that his iron was like below the charts low. So here's the horse-sized pills, sized iron pills. Take these. So he worked from home then. It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, you guys, before, like, nothing was changing. His symptoms were exactly the same, weak, dizzy, and tired. So he would sleep, work. And finally, I'm like, honey, like, nothing's changing. I feel like we need to do something else. So we called the doctor and they ordered a stool sample based on his symptoms. Like, let's check to see what's going on. Found some blood in the stool. We're going to schedule a colonoscopy and a stomach scope. Okay. So did that within a few days. And I asked the doctor as we're sitting there in the waiting room, because I went to every appointment with him, like, we're going to get the results today, right, doctor? And he's, it wasn't the greatest experience of our life, but he's like, obviously if I have something to show you, I will, show you. And I'm like, okay.
It's almost rude. It's almost rude when the doctors don't understand your past trauma, because you guys, and we're very sensitive to this. It's because Jason has a colonoscopy tomorrow, and I'm going to tell you, he is very nervous.
Right.
And it's exactly that. And when a physician doesn't understand, like, I'm going to want that result like stat, like, because I'm nervous about this, because of things have happened in the past, there's almost some value to being like, hey, come on, I need some grace here. So.
Right. And even if they don't know your past, at least still be empathetic.
Yeah, exactly.
We're there not for routine colonoscopy.
Yeah.
So as soon as the doctor walked in, because he did, after the colonoscopy, I could tell something was not right by his demeanor. Yeah. And he said, all right, John and Stacy, here's the picture of your stomach. It looks fine. And flipped the page. And all I saw was this baseball-sized black blob on this piece of paper in the middle of an organ. And I'm like, okay. And he said, I can't be for certain that it's cancer, but it most likely is. So again, in an immediate moment, which we weren't prepared for, that's it. That our life changed. And so he's like, we'll send it in. By the time, it was sent in, and then we had a CT scan. And by the time within a week, we had gotten the results from that team, and we had 8 doctors and nurses in our room saying, it has metastasized to your liver. We got to go. We got to start right now. So you don't even have time to breathe and process, right? Now you're in the zone. You're in the cancer zone, and you just go. You do whatever you're told and go. So we started treatment immediately. Every treatment he had, it was a chemo regimen. And we went right to the aggressive. This was the last resort chemo that we went to. And it kicked his butt. So it was supposed to be where 1 week he would not feel well, 1 week feel decent, and then another treatment, and continue that
Mm-hmm.
until the tumors would reduce and or be eliminated. Boom, have surgery. Boom, have some years left. But the cancer or the chemo quite literally just took him down and out for the whole 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he was sick. I was taking him in for fluids. Um, it was horrible.
Stacey, do you
And
think
so
you were a different caregiver because of your experience previously?
100%. And part of the thing, because I wrote a book series about these experiences,
Yeah.
right? And what I say and what I truly believe in my heart, you guys, is that I got cancer to prepare me to help be a caregiver and be empathetic and understand what my husband's going through. It prepared me
Yeah.
to understand what those chemo symptoms are, right? Because I remember, I think it was his first treatment, and nausea and fatigue are two very common words that we hear,
Absolutely.
right? But nausea and fatigue don't just mean you want to feel like you're going to throw up and that you're tired. It is so much deeper and harder than that. But without finding the vocabulary to explain that, it's hard to explain. So it's way worse than just being tired and way worse than just wanting to throw up. So the first treatment that my husband was at, I'm sitting in the room and the nurse came in and she said, "How you doing, John?" And she said, "Are you nauseous?" He's like, "I don't know. I don't feel good. I don't know." So she's like, "All right, let me know if you need anything." So she walked out of the room and my husband looked at me. He's like, "I don't know what nauseous is. I just feel like I want to throw up and I want to curl up in a ball and I don't even know how to explain that." I'm like, "Honey, that's what nausea is."
Yeah.
So I went of his room. I went to the bathroom to release some oncoming tears because I did not want to do that in front of him. And then went to the nurse's station and said, "My husband 100% has nausea. Can you please give him some medication for that?"
Yeah.
So I knew what he was going
Yeah.
through. And so my cancer journey, again, not at the time was I thinking, "Oh, I'm so glad that I had cancer."
Right.
But now, right?
Yeah.
These are the things that I've learned. So in January, the end of January of 2020, is when it was January 31st. He had a halfway through CT scan to check status. And the team walked in, they're like, "It's not working. It's actually spreading. Sorry, this is all we can do." Like, okay, like that's it? This is it. He said, "I will look for a trial. No guarantees." But yeah. So after each of these very monumental moments, my husband and I would come home from these appointments and we'd be standing in the same place and we'd hold hands on the way home with no or minimal words. We'd come home, we'd walk into the house, and we would hold each other in the same spot in the kitchen and cry. And then after that cry was done, we would say, "Okay, what are we going to do about this?" And make the next plan. So every time we were told something that, one, it was cancer, two, it's spreading, three, the treatment isn't working, like every single time that was our routine. And then they did find a trial. It was through Mayo Clinic, which from our driveway to their parking lot was exactly 4 hours because I drove it every week to get him back and forth for this trial, which we found out, 6 weeks later was also not working.
Mm.
In between all of that, I was calling every hospital system within the world that dealt with this type of cancer. Same answer. You're doing everything you can. There are no other options. There are no other options. There are no other options. And every time you have to hear that over and over, it's like a punch in the gut, a punch in the face, a punch in the heart, over and over. But I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. We are going to find something, right? So then when the trial, halfway through that, they're like, sorry, you guys. And we came home and we looked at each other. I had one more meeting, a phone call with some hospital in Pennsylvania, East Coast, someplace. And it was like a week later, it was early June of 2020. And again, I can remember this call as if it was yesterday. So we were on the phone call, the doctor says again, once again, there's nothing more. You guys are doing everything. I'm sorry, we have nothing more. And there is nothing out there. So we got off the phone and my husband grabbed my hand and we stood up and he looked me in the eyes and said, "We have done everything that we possibly can do. Let's just live whatever we have life left the best that we can." So I nodded, like, okay. Yep, I support your decision in a way that I love you so much. But so we had to make that decision. And then that was June of 2020. And our life dramatically changed because there wasn't any more fighting for his life, right? It was fighting for every single solitary second that we had left together and embracing it like we'd never embraced it before. And it was everything in between, taking a Jeep ride with the doors and the top off when weather permitted and he could muster the energy to do it, to go get an ice cream cone, to go ride along our favorite river road. We just embraced all of these little moments, to sitting out on our patio and talking about conversations from how to start the snowblower to what I'm going to do for the rest of my life without him.
You know what? I want to pick. This is awful. But I have to take a pause. I'm sorry to have to take a break.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break and we're going to come right back.
Yeah.
Because this is when you guys really got living and you really had conversations. And I want to keep going.
Yeah.
I want to keep going. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
All right, everybody. We are back here with Stacy Ryan. They've gotten to that point where they actually have been told there's no other options, but you are living a life now that you are choosing to live with the time that you and John have left.
Yeah.
And, you just tickled me because he's sharing the information like how to start the snowblower to this important man things. Like, I want you to be able to start the snowblower and I love you and let's take the Jeep ride. Let's eat the ice cream. Tell me the things that you learned about your marriage during that time, that you learned about one another, that after almost 30 years, you were like, wow, this is kind of a surprise. Tell me about those things.
I feel like when we were in this moment that was unexpected and we had a great marriage, we had a great love, something in our hearts took it to this another level that is almost undescribable in words. It was the littlest of things that mattered. We had to be sitting at the kitchen table. I remember one moment we were eating oatmeal. Okay. So it's just your basic oatmeal with he would put blueberries in it and brown sugar. And he made this when it was winter months on some random Saturdays. It wasn't all the time. It was just something that we did sporadically. But then all of a sudden, eating oatmeal with him at the kitchen table became a really big deal. And he said to me one day, so this was now we're in that stage of our life, right? The last 6 months of his life. And so he looked up at me and he said, "I will really miss eating oatmeal with you." And so, we took each of those moments that, a year prior to that, we just not necessarily took for granted, but kind of took for granted, right?
Yeah.
Because you knew we'd do it next Saturday if we wanted to. There will never be another Saturday for the rest of our life that we are able to do this some point in the next, like after 6 months, next year at this time, this will never be an option again. So, it was one of those things that we didn't say out loud how precious these moments are because the time is limited. We just acted. We just did. We didn't talk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes total sense.
Right? So Each of those little moments were just significant. And my husband, I feel like sometimes he knew me better than myself as far as what I'm capable of and what I need to know. So he started planting. Now I know he was planting seeds for me, right? To prepare me for the now, the after he's gone without him life, to provide strength when he's not here. And so he would say things like, I am so proud of you. You are so strong through this. Because the only time I cried was with him. I never cried for him. And I only cried in front of him if his tears were triggered first. And sometimes I didn't even cry then because it was his moment to be sad. Someone who never cries before, someone who, he was the strong one, right? And he always held it together. I was the, emotional, I'm a girl, he's the boy, right? But somehow I found this strength to be strong for him. And I think it is, not I think, it is because of all these things that I did before, the Ironman, me surviving cancer, that led me to this point of finding this strength, right? But he would tell me over and over again on how proud he is of me for being strong. Now, when he fell asleep, and I knew he'd be sleeping for a while, I would go into the bathroom and I would cry myself where the snot was running and I could barely breathe and get it out of my system, or call a girlfriend, get it out of my system, and then march back in and wait for him to wake up and do what I needed to do.
It feels like caregiver 101. It feels like suck it up. You just suck it up. It is like a bootstrap kind of moment. Like, I'm just going to pull myself up by the bootstrap, and where you give yourself these moments of just small breakdowns. I call them mini breakdowns, mini bitch fest sessions.
Yes.
They're these, but you don't feel like you can because it's worse for them. Like, I would feel sorry for myself. Like, I can't believe this is happening. This is not what we wanted. This is not what we wanted and I wanted. And then you're like, all right, pull it together. Let's go.
Yep.
And it's this mentality, and it's a strength you don't even realize you had. I know when I did a journal, I look back at the journal and I'm like, I was stronger than I realized at the moment. Yeah. I really was stronger than I realized.
Stacy, in the time that you all spent together, did you grieve together? Did you talk about what you were losing and how much you'd miss one another? Did you go ahead and start that process together? Yeah. Did he tell you it was going to be okay?
Yeah, I don't know if I knew in the moment that that's what it was, right? To me, it was conversations with my husband.
Yeah.
But it was like the snowblower and like, what am I going to do with my life and what opportunities I have. He would just feather this in through us, having the oatmeal, or us sitting out on the patio, or us eating the ice cream cone. And he would say, so I would never be prepared for what he would say, but I knew he had a list in his head that he needed to get out at some point when it made sense for him. And I just followed along on his lead. But he would say things like, hey, I just want you to know that if you meet somebody, it's okay. We were watching Seinfeld at the time, which is our favorite show. And he looks over to me out of the blue, and I'm like, ew. Like, to me at that moment of my life, I'm like, he's like, I know. I'm like, but okay, thanks. And then we continued watching TV, right? And it was just other things where he would say, not that he was also proud of me for being strong, but he said numerous thousands of times to go live my best life, that I have so much to offer and I'm going to make an impact and a difference in this world. And he knows it. And to go do it and to not give up. And so all of those conversations just allowed me, while I was then now a widow, right, in my now life, to dig back to be like, all right, I'm doing this for you, honey. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing it for me too. I'm doing this for you. You said I could do it. I'm going to do it. So all those things that he had shared with me. So yeah, I guess in some sense we were grieving and saying goodbye to each other without, again, saying those exact words.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I know that, I'm like, why can we not have 10 hours later? Um, you know, I know that in November he started declining. And I know that at that moment, as a caregiver, it almost felt, and even the way that it's almost like this obsessive, like, I can't leave you. I know that you were by his side every second. And I think about caregiving for a spouse versus a parent versus a child. You know, it's everybody has difference. But I know in reading in what you'd sent over to us, it was just like, and even in our conversation, you never left his side. And you were afraid to leave his side because you did not want him. And I know his sister came over and helped.
Right.
And so, and I know that your all's anniversary was December 7th.
Yeah.
And so
that was quite literally the hardest time of my life, right? But you find the strength in the moment. It was right before Thanksgiving. He just, one night, he, for some reason, was waking up in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. And I had this futon that I bought and I butted up against our bed because I didn't want to disturb him while he was mostly sleeping now. We had in-home hospice. I was his caregiver and he didn't want to do medication. And I did it at the very, very end, but he was already unconscious. So, because he didn't want to not be able to communicate with me if there was an opportunity. And those were his words when all this kind of started to unfold at the end of the summer. And he sat up one night and he said, and I would have to hold him up to sit up. And he's like, his eyes were closed. He's like, honey, are you there? I'm like, yeah, I'm here, honey. And he said, are we close? And I said, close to seeing God? And he nodded. I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, I am so sorry. I love you so much. And a tear came down his cheek. He then laid down, and that was quite literally his last words. I didn't know those were going to be his last words, but those were his last words. And then within a week, it was just really hard I couldn't take care of myself, someone who is very, prevalent in that. So I called his sister. I'm like, I can't do this. And without hesitation, she's in the car. She's like, I'm on my way. She took Family Medical Leave Act and stayed with us to help care for me so I could care for him, and ended up staying there. So December 7th is the day that we met, right? And so December 7th, 2020 would have been our 30 years together. And he is, he's not talking anymore. I'm afraid to go to the bathroom, to walk out of this room. I didn't want to, miss saying goodbye to my husband. And all day, I just kept whispering in his ear that, I love you so much. We did it. We made it 30 years. And that's all I did is repeat that all day long in his ears. And then the next day, December 8th, I don't know where this came from, the strength, but I was brave enough to say that it was okay to go and that I will be okay. But I couldn't stand seeing him like this anymore. He didn't deserve this anymore. And I said, it's okay. And as I said those words, he quite bluntly said, mm-mm. That was the first voice I had heard since he said, I love you. And I'm like, oh my, he can hear me. He can quite, oh my gosh. So I called his sisters in the room and his sister in the room, and I'm like, this just happened. So she's talking over him like, please God, take my brother, take him out of pain. And he's like, mm-mm. So the next day, it was December 9th. Every 20 minutes, I have my timer set on my phone. I am putting morphine in his cheek to help minimize what pain I think he's in, right? And I'm not sleeping. I'm up every 20 minutes, so I'm basically up, right? So this has been going on now for 3 or 4 days, and I'm beyond exhausted, not just from the 3 or 4 days, but from a year, right? And it was 11:30 p.m. on that December 9th. And I woke up to my timer going off, but it was 10 minutes later. I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed this. I must have fell asleep. In the meantime, I see his sister sleeping in the rocking chair that I had in the room as well. And I stood up, or I sat up to give him morphine, and he was gone. And I screamed to my sister Annie's name. She jumped off out of the chair, and that was it. And I'm like, she goes, so at 11:30 when I was supposed to get up, somewhere when we were both asleep, my husband decided to take his last breath because he knew we were there and he didn't want us to see that. So I fell asleep for a reason, and I truly believe that in my heart. It was on his terms. But I did not leave his side. I did not leave his side.
I
So
know.
death to his part was quite literally a very powerful thing for me.
I know, I get teared up. I told you I cried when we were on the phone together. I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now. There are no words. It is a love of someone that is just, yeah. It's hard for me because I'm like, oh, I feel that still so much. And even from the first time I heard it to this time, it's so heavy, and it is the love of
a life.
Yeah, it is a love of a life. And I hate you, clock. And the thing is, and then you have to keep going because this was in December of 2020.
And you are still going though.
And
like
still going.
I hear, and this is what I was thinking is probably my sister question, because you have, like, I listen to your heart. I feel like the love is so much still there, and you have put in process so many things. You said we've got books, we've got the podcast. You are pouring so much into others. And I want you to kind of tell me how you're still going. Why are you taking this path? Because you could have taken a path to get under a rock and be done. Stacy's done. What path are you on? Tell me about that.
So through this process, it's almost 5 years from when we were diagnosed and all this was happening, right? And each year I just worked harder and harder each year. 2021, I just tried to figure out how to get out of bed every day.
Yeah.
And I figured I had two choices. I could either not get out of bed or figure out a way how to. And I would celebrate, yay, I brushed my teeth today. Good job, Stacy. And little by little, I just built off of that. And then the following year, I've always been a goal-setting person, whether that's professionally or for my fitness. So I started setting new goals. I'm like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my life now. My husband says I have so much to offer this world. I don't know, do I? And then I started setting these goals, and I thought, you know what? I had a great career. I had a great fitness, all these things that I've experienced. I want to see if there's something different that I've never done before that's out of all of that. And my girlfriends were inspiring me to write a book. And I laughed because I'm like, really? They're like, Stacy, you journaled, you inspire us through all of this that you've gone through. Yes. So next thing you know, I created a podcast about my widowship journey, and I am raw, I am real. It is out there, the whole process of it. I wrote a 3-book series about my Ironman days, about our cancer journeys, what I did to start healing the process after losing my husband. And now here I am. It is, May of 2025. I have been dating another widow who was also with his wife for 30 years, lost her to cancer, and her caregiver. We are now buying a house together. We are going to start our whole new life. My heart, I never, ever thought that I could feel that kind of joy again and that love. But it is quite literally possible to fall in love again. I feel like I won the lottery 2 times, you guys, because I had this amazing 30 years with an amazing husband whose name was John, and my now next whole new life with this another amazing human whose also name is John. We're we're starting our whole new book and our life and what this is going to be. And I just recently decided that I want to start getting involved back into my wellness and fitness and my passion for that. So I'm opening up a yoga and wellness studio this fall. So I'm not stopping.
I mean, I don't know how much, I love that. I just got started because I don't know how, like, if you don't walk away from hearing, like, this is like, this goes back to brutally beautiful. It will always be the most appropriate way to describe it is brutally beautiful because there is so much pain. And in that pain, you've been able to find silver linings. You've been able to say, I give myself permission to keep living. And you didn't need John's permission, but John loved you so much and he wanted you. He wanted you to hear him say, I want this for you. I want this for you because I love you so unconditionally. And then I also think it's pretty interesting that his name, your new gentleman's name, like that, how when you're older, it's not a boyfriend. It's like your new gentleman's name. It's John.
I'm trying to distinguish, what do you say when you're in your 50s and you have another person in your life?
I have no clue. Like, is it your significant other? So, is that your gentleman friend? We're too old for boyfriend. You're like, that's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
You're such an inspiration.
Yeah.
Stacy.
And I love, I guess, for me, and I've talked to people who have a new partner after they've been widowed, and that new partner has such a difficulty understanding how you can still love, but there's no limit on love. And I think the new John, I think he probably understands that, Stacy.
Him being a widow.
We talk about his life with his beautiful wife, and he has 2 grown adult children. We talk about stories and things that they did openly. We talk about my husband. It is never, we both said that that was a significant, amazing part of our life.
Yeah.
And we never wanted to be the elephant in the room, and we will never be jealous with each other. It is, I feel like, again, we have this opportunity to have now met and started a new life, but our life with our spouses is always going to be on the table to talk about. We've cried together, we laughed together, and now we're going to create new memories together.
Love it. Love it. It's a whole new life.
It is a whole new life. It is. And I love that.
You are a blessing, Stacy. And I will tell you that I hope that other widows, they hear this, because a lot have so much trouble moving on and they get stuck, and you are such an inspiration.
Yeah. Well, and what does moving on look like? And it will look a little different for everybody, because it will. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter, but don't put yourself, and I don't know if you would say this, but don't allow other people's expectations and opinions and limitations. I'm glad you said that. Limitations limit you from living truly your best life.
It is such a personal journey. I've met now numerous widows over the last 5 years of my life and become friends with them, right? Similar stories of how we lost our spouses, perhaps, but everybody's now journey is different. And there's no judging. There's no rhyme or reason. Like, it has to feel right in your heart. Other than finding yourself again, which takes a lot of work, right? That's important. But however you do that, I feel like it's such a personal thing. And do what makes sense in your heart.
Do what feels good.
Laying in bed every day is like, don't do that,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is. It's do what feels good to you. But give yourself permission to feel all the things, the happies, the sads, and I think we talked about it in our earlier podcast. Grief has no timeline. Grief has no timeline, and it will sneak up on you periodically. And JJ and I were talking about this before we started. This is the season of grief because our dad passed away on July 4th in 2011, and JJ had mentioned, and this is personal, so I know you don't mind me sharing. Notice I said this is personal, and I know you don't mind me sharing. The last time JJ saw our dad was Memorial Weekend, and we're up against Memorial Weekend, and the build up to that, and so grief will show its head, and then we always look for the silver lining. Like, I had this opportunity, I got to tell my dad I loved him, and I think you're just an inspiration. I think you're an inspiration, and this story I know is going to help so many people. And I rarely tear up because I am a hard candy out of shell, and I am an M&M who they should
It has to be.
they should sponsor us, because I'm gonna tell you right now. But on the inside, I'm really soft and chocolatey, and so and I love that. I have one question for you, and then we will close up. How, and this is the best one, how do you self-care? What is your guilty pleasure? What is the one thing that you do just for yourself that you're like, that's what I'm doing, and I love it, and I don't apologize, and it's only for me?
Oh, that is such a funny question. I still love fitness, and for me, I guess it's gonna be a twofold to answer question, I guess. One, I still create fitness in my world, and I don't apologize for it, in the sense of that's the priority. So like if you want to schedule time with me, yep, it's after my workout kind of thing. But I think the biggest thing in a general statement is I am not afraid to laugh, and I don't feel guilty about it. It took me a while to get here. It was a process, right? Because initially it was like, oh, I should not be happy. I should not be laughing. But now I am truly guilt-free, and that's what I hope people can get to. So that to me would be, I'm not sure it's a guilty pleasure, but it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm gonna laugh and I'm gonna enjoy it and not feel bad about it.
I'm allowed to be happy. And darn it, if you don't like it, I still don't care.
Well, and there's a whole thing with that, because people are like, what? You've done this and what? I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to explain. If you don't get it, then you're just, that's not my issue.
That's you. And I won't carry it. Oh, I love this. What a way to end.
You are fantastic, Stacy.
Hey, what a way to end like a 6 series and episodes of recording. We have had so many amazing, wonderful people. Yep. And Stacy Ryan is the exclamation point. You are an exclamation point. So, Stacy, thank you for being with us. And everybody, thank you for listening and joining us. And until we confess again, we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Well, friends, that's a wrap on this week's confession. Thanks so much for listening in to the podcast. But before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and tell your friends about the Confessions Show. Don't forget, visit our website to sign up for our newsletter, as well as connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter. You'll also find the video recording of all our episodes on the Confessions website and our YouTube channel. We'll see you next Tuesday when we come together to confess again. Till then, take care of you. Okay, let's talk disclaimers. We are not medical professionals and are not providing any medical advice. If you have medical questions, we recommend that you talk with a medical professional of your choice. As always, my sisters and I at Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver have taken care in selecting the speakers, but the opinions of our speakers are theirs alone. The views and opinions stated in this show are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of the Sisterhood of Care, LLC. Thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast.